welcome to the video from Oscar Cooper. I hope you're all doing well. Star Wars Squadrons has been reviewed. The reviews are all in. Everyone loves it. Skid Up loves it. Angry Joe loves it. The hot ass stuff is causing some issues, but let's not worry about that. We're on PlayStation 4. We're on PlayStation VR. None of the aforementioned reviewers held it up against any other PlayStation VR games, especially not flight or space or sci-fi games. So old Coop's going to step in and just give you guys an idea of how strong a title it actually is. Now, we're actually looking at non-VR footage here, okay? This is interior cockpit footage, obviously, and I'm focusing on this moon here because I'm going to make the switch to the VR mode shortly. I don't see a massive deterioration in visuals. We often suffer with granular pixel detail. The Pro does help with supporting that, but we do see a little bit of blurriness and just a very slight bit of smoothness over some of those crisper edges that we would see. But overall, it's a very impressive change. This is the VR footage, obviously, and it's also taking care of a lot of the interior environments. It's very clear that this game is made from the ground up with VR in mind. It's not a tack on, not like the game that's coming up. I think it's really important to show the ships. The franchise does well with that. We had EA do it with the Battlefront add-on. You got to stand next to an X-Wing and look at R2-D2 for the first time in VR for me. It was pretty freaking amazing. Now, you may have noticed from the title that I'm holding this game up against Ace Combat 7, which is a PlayStation VR and non-VR game, just like Squadrons, and it's actually probably, for me, one of the standout PlayStation VR games available. It really is head and shoulders above a lot of the other flight games. There's that Eve space one, there's the Eagle one, there's loads of them, but this one for me is the strongest. Hence the reason I've dragged it out and I'm comparing it against Squadrons, because there's a hell of a lot of similarities here, but there's also a massive shortfall when it comes to Ace Combat that we'll get to in a second. So this is the single player or non-VR base game footage, and a lot of beautiful detail here. This game is always famous for looking damn cool.
Half of the anti-air guns down.
Both games have these amazing introductions to their VR modes. Ace Combat is coming up on a air carrier and getting put onto the takeoff strip, and the feeling in your stomach when you go off the end of that plane is absolutely awesome, and the detail is pretty damn high, to be fair. Also, getting introduced to your TIE fighter at the beginning of Squadrons is absolutely epic.
Pre-flight complete. Let's get a clean launch. Lock onto my fighter.
I'm very much enjoying that faithfulness to the retro-looking 70s tech. We're at kind of a difficult situation now, aren't we? With a lot of the tech in early Star Wars is looking really awful. Like Vader's box that he's got on the front of him looks like something from a co-op till. It doesn't really age very well, but they've coped with it, and it's surprisingly good. And getting to fly underneath one of the largest ships in your opening few seconds of this game really does hit home that it's taking this subject matter extremely seriously. And another thing that knocked me back was interior shadows within the cockpit itself. So when you're flying around, you actually get light coming into the capsule and just giving it this real sense of 3D space. I hadn't seen that before. It's obviously quite difficult to get that on Ace Combat, but look how awesome it looks, having that light shining inside this bubble. Equally, over on the Ace Combat side, you get this sheen that comes off the ocean, and you get a lot of detail on the waves, and the clouds themselves are actual in-game objects. We'll go to that in a bit more detail in a second, but it's so impressive when you come off that hangar and get involved in combat for the first time on this game, because it looks and sounds absolutely amazing. So let's talk about the combat, and the handling of it and how it's handled in both games is actually very accessible in Squadrons, because your ship is extremely user-friendly. So you can't actually just drop out the sky. You can float around and be stationary and brake within the most ridiculously short period of time. It doesn't suck away from the realism for me, because I'm sort of invested in the sci-fi-ness of it all. I kind of enjoy it, but it is very good. You become very good with maneuvering this craft around these quite detailed and intricate environments. I was very impressed with how much furniture they put in your way and how much navigation you actually have to do. I was actually really impressed by this. The ship maneuverability and the way that the campaign utilizes that was very good. There's a section where you go into a tunnel early on and you have to sort of navigate through some quite close areas. It felt amazing. It felt like I could die any minute, and I could almost feel the claustrophobic sense of danger.
Goodbye, Teresa.
As mentioned earlier, let's get to the clouds and the cloud canopy and ace combat. The droplets of water, when you're hurtling through one of these clouds and you're not too sure how close the ground is going to be underneath them, and you're targeting an enemy craft, man, that blue sky, the feelings, the freedom of this game, and the fact that you're sitting in a jet, right, and you can't just be stationary, you are G-forcing around every single corner. That is all there. It feels fantastic.
Marked on enemy. Marked on.
I actually really like it when you get to the X-Wing stuff on the campaign within Squadrons. It kind of gives you awesome set pieces. It also feels a lot more open. You're a lot more exposed on the top of your craft, and they really utilize that with some amazing scenes.
Echo 5, wait, you two. Damn it, 5.
Explosions are an issue for me, both in and out of VR on this game. They seem a little bit cut and pasted. I know that might sound a bit harsh, but I remember the explosions on the Battlefront expansion looking just as good, if not a little bit better, to be fair. But that was a long time ago, and this is not a full price game. And I think it's probably just made a little bit worse because of the VR and because of some of that detail getting sucked out of it. But yeah, it's a very small complaint. I do love the amazing smoke coming out of your console and the feeling of panic. And look at this banking that you can get away with in these crafts. It's absolutely awesome.
Our side of the NC-80.
Talking of explosions, holy fuck. On the second mission of the VR on Ace Combat, you get wheeled out of an airport that's being pummeled by the enemy, right? And you've got to apply the VR factor to this footage. But just imagine this happening as you're about to take off on your plane. It's mind-blowing. It's brilliant. And look at the explosion detail. You then actually got to take off with a plane underneath you that of course is also exploding. This is one of the greatest VR set pieces I've ever sat in.
Caution.
Mobius 1, altitude restriction lifted. Excellent takeoff. We're counting on you.
Interceptors inbound. You idiots are late.
I actually found myself going over to the fleet battles because I wanted to try all of the craft out and not have to do 100% of the campaign. So I whipped over there and had a look at all of the maps and actually got quite into the fleet battles. They're really good. So it's a little bit like Capture the Flag but in space with two giant carriers. But there is a middle ground, and of course you have either choice to protect your carrier or go and screw up the other guy, or just be in the middle of the field annoying everyone. And navigating around all these set pieces within these maps is hands down one of the best VR experiences available at the moment. It's ridiculously good.
That's my ship!
Advantage. Let's keep it that way. Imperial Raider, destroy. Keep up the pressure.
Having all of this stuff online with a mate who's also in VR as your wingman and sort of communicating with each other and chasing down, whew, that's the promised land for the VR, right? That's what we have all worked towards. It's an online Star Wars VR fucking Squadrons game, and we got it. So you might have remembered at the start of the video I said there was a little bit of a catch when it came to Ace Combat's VR stuff, and this is the crux. It's only, as far as I know, 3 missions long. Can you believe that? So the VR section to the game is not the base game. It's made only for VR, and there's very minimal amount of ship or plane choice in it as well. You basically have Suite FA to choose from. However, there is an airshow option, right? And the footage you're looking at here, I had 28 minutes to do mission 1 on easy. It took me 28 minutes. I consider I'm about 3/4 way through the campaign, so there's huge challenge because I've not done it on normal or hard. Huge challenge, but really only, from what I know, 3 missions. So when it comes to a lot of content, you're gonna have to look at Squadrons, really, because it's incredibly done. The fact that they've, hold on, just look at the altitude meter there. That's the lowest of, anyway. Go for Squadrons if you want a full game on VR. But if you've got Squadrons and you want more cool stuff, and you enjoy it, you don't feel sick from hurtling around in a craft, man, get hold of Ace Combat. Straight up, go down and buy it now.
How did they manage to clear down our numbers so fast?
Quick schedule update, that Arcade Racers video is going to be ready for Monday. See you down there!
Caution. Hold on.
Mobius 1 down.